So the last part of section 2.4 is talking about simplifying fractions, which is a very important section because it's something we often want to do. We always want to write our answers in the most simplified form possible. So we can simplify a fraction as long as the numerator and denominator have a common factor. In other words, they're divisible by the same number. So if we want to write a fraction in simplest form, you need to divide the numerator and the denominator both by the same number. If you divide them both by the GCF, the greatest common factor, then you're guaranteed to have that fraction in the simplest form it can be in. So for example, if we had some generic A over B, well, if we had some number C, we could divide both by, that would be equivalent. We could divide them both by the same number. We're still going to have an equivalent fraction. So for example, here we have 2 over 4. Okay, both of those numbers are divisible by 2, and actually 2 is the greatest common factor. So if we divide the top and bottom by 2, we get 1 over 2, and that is the simplest form for this fraction. 2 over 4, remember, is going to be equivalent to 1 over 2. 2 over 4 is going to look like this. 1 over 2, now we're going to divide into 2 pieces, is going to be the same amount of stuff, but it's a simpler form, so we often like to express it as 1 over 2. Same thing with that last one, so we have 8 over 24. Those, if you figure out the GCF, you'll find it's 8. So if you divide both of those numbers by 8, you'll end up with 1/3, which is the fraction in simplest form. A fraction will be in the simplest form if the numerator and denominator have no common factors other than 1. So the greatest common factor is 1 in those cases. Okay, let's take a look at that first one. So we have 30 over 45. So step 1, let's find the GCF. So I'm going to use the table method here, the division method. So we've got 30. 30 is divisible by 2 to give me 15. 15 is divisible by 5 to give me 3, and 3 is prime. So here are my 3 prime factors of 30. Now let's do the same thing for 45. Okay, so 45 is divisible by 5. That's going to give us 9. 9 is divisible by 3 to give us 3, and 3 is prime. So here are my prime factors for 45. So my GCF then, I need to look at what's in common. I have 1 5 in common and 1 3 in common. So my GCF then is going to be 5 times 3, which is 15. That means if I divide my numerator and my denominator by 15, I'm going to have an equivalent fraction here, which is in simplest form. So 30 divided by 15 gives me 2, and 45 divided by 15 gives me 3. So 2/3 is the equivalent fraction, but this time written in its simplest form, or lowest term, sometimes people say. Okay, next one there. So we have a 12 and a 2. Well, 2 is already prime. So if we were going to do its chart, we would just have a 2. Okay, and if we were going to do 12, we would divide by 2 for 6, divide by another 2 for 3, and there are our prime factors. So we just have a 2 in common, which means we can divide the top and bottom by 2, which is our GCF, and we would get 6 over 1. Any number over 1 just means that whole number. So here our answer we could just write as 6. All right, go ahead and pause this video and try those next 2 on your own. All right, so let's try number C or letter C together. And I'm going to do a factor tree for this one to find my prime factors. So 60 is 6 times 10. 6 is 2 times 3. 10 is 2 times 5. Let's do 75. That's 3 times 25. And 25 is 5 times 5. So now let's circle what we have in common. I see a 3 and a 5. So our GCF then is going to be 15. Sorry, that's a bit messy. I'll just write it here. GCF equals 15. So that means I'm going to divide the numerator and the denominator by 15, which will give me 4 out of 5. So my fraction in simplest form is 4/5. All right, last one, we've got some bigger numbers there. So I'll try to find some room for them here. I should have given you more room. Sorry about that. Okay, so if we have 210, that's 21 times 10. 21 is 7 times 3, and 10 is 2 times 5. So we're done there. Let's try 252. This is a 7. 252. Well, that would be 2 times what? 252 divided by 2. 126. 126 would be 2 times 63, I believe. 63. And 63 is 7 times 9. And 9 is 3 times 3. Okay, so now we have to figure out what's in common between those two. We have a 7 and 1 3 and 1 2. And so our GCF here is 7 times 3 times 2, which is 21 times 2, which would be 42. Okay, so that means we're going to divide the top and bottom by 42. And that's going to give me what? So 210 divided by 42 gives me 5. And 252 divided by 42 gives me 6. So this equivalent fraction, but in simplest form, is 5/6.